Hello and welcome to New Earth Awakening. Today we welcome Tom T. Moore. He is an award-winning author, speaker, and entertainment industry CEO. He brings a keen knowledge of how requesting benevolent outcomes can be used in both business affairs and one's personal life. He says that requesting benevolent outcomes for over 25 years has resulted in leading a gentler, less stressful, and less fearful life. The Gentle Way. His books include The Gentle Way, a self-help guide for those who believe in angels. The Gentle Way 2, The Story Continues. The Gentle Way 3, Master Your Life. The Gentle Way with Pets. Angelic help for your animal companions. First Contact, Conversations with Annie T, and Atlantis and Lemuria, The Lost Continents Revealed. His two newest books, Conversations with Gaia. Please visit his website at www.thegentlewaybook.com. Tom, welcome to the show.
Wow. We're getting, if I have any more books, there won't be time for an interview, but but I'm happy to read it. Just kidding.
Thank you. And we're also happy that you're writing so many books. And the fairy book is also coming up at some stage.
All I need is more questions about the fairy world.
There we go, viewers. Just request your questions, send them in, and Tom will be talking to the fairies and answering those. But we're going to get back to that. Let's start by you sharing your really amazing, multifaceted journey and how it led you to the work you're doing today.
Wow. Where did I start? Gosh, I got sort of hooked in on the Gentle Way and everything years ago, and I my wife and I were going to a seminar put on by Dick Sutphin, and he was very well known for these seminars where you would increase your psychic ability. And so we went to that, and in the middle, I asked to speak to a shaman living in the 1600s in the Western United States. And his name was Reveals the Mysteries, and he had been channeled for me by a gentleman by the name of Robert Shapiro. And so I had asked in a channeling, was my sole purpose, my sole contract to support his work? And I was told, no, it was not. And so I thought that's strange. Well, a couple of years later, here we were in Sedona, Arizona. And so Dick Sutphin was putting us under 3 or 4 times a day. I mean, it was like by the end of the day, you felt like you'd had a whole bottle of wine. And so I decided to see if I could contact him. And when he put us under to do automatic writing, I said, well, I'm going to try and connect with Reveals the Mysteries. And so I said, Reveals the Mysteries, are you there? And he said, yes, I am, Tom. And I said, wow, now this is great. And so I asked him why it was not on my sole contract to help Robert Shapiro. And he said, Tom, he said, you're a shaman living at the same time with another tribe, and you have decided to reincarnate into the 20th and 21st centuries to reintroduce people to the Gentle Way. And so the very first time I ever spoke to Reveals the Mysteries, he gave me the title of my first book. And he went on to say, "Well, you're going to write books." And I said, "No, no, no. I'm I'm a business guy. I'm in international film distribution, and I'll do this till I retire." And he said, "No, books." And so I said, "Oh, that loud almost in my head." And so I said, "Okay." So I proceeded to write the first book in about 90 or 100 days or so. But if you notice on my website, it's www.thegentlewaybook.com singular, because I thought I could never write another book. And here we are 8 books later. So there we go. You know, you can't always tell what's coming up, but you just sort of follow your soul path, and things just keep springing up in front of you, and you go with it.
Exactly. You just let it flow at some stage.
So my soul contract is to show people, because I'm just a regular guy, to show people that anyone can connect during a meditation. And these meditations are real easy to get into. You just breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, and you slowly slow your breathing down, and you surround yourself with a bubble of white light for protection, and then you can ask to speak to whomever you wish to speak to. In my case, it's my guardian angel Theo, or it's Gaia, or uh, just uh, anyone literally in the universe, um, that wishes to speak to you. I now these days speak um, uh, to Creator, and Creator tells me that Creator can have over 1 trillion conversations going on at the same time, and all you have to do is ask for Creator, and He's immediately there and will answer any questions you wish to ask, even the most trivial ones. Uh, he's there available for you any minute of the day, which is kind of great. And you can ask to speak to other uh, uh, unique souls like Jesus. Um, uh, you can talk to like Dog Soul for my book, The Gentle Way with Pets. I spoke with Dog Soul, who souls every single um, dog on earth, and I also spoke to Cat Soul, and Cat Soul insouls every single domesticated cat and feral cat. And I said, well, what about the lions and tigers? Oh, there's a um, uh, different souls for them. So I said, oh, okay. So it's just amazing when you think how many millions or billions of these animals are out there, and just one soul can ensoul every single one of them with a kind of a smaller uh, segment of their soul than than humans. Although I've been told for humans that besides the 6 to 12 soul fragments of a soul that are having lives on Earth, for each soul has these 6 to 12 fragments. They're called a cluster. Your soul may be having 500,000 to over 1 million lives going on all over the universe for their learning. So it's it's much grander when you get into this than you can absolutely imagine. And I'm sure there will be people that come along after me that will explore even much, much more for everyone.
And you have quite already explored a lot and keep on exploring and expanding.
Yeah, because um, eh, you know, these explorations, I put out a free newsletter every single week, done over 900 of these so far. And uh, it's, it's something that is on my soul contract to do. And so everyone uh, gets to read these newsletters every week. or go back and read all 900 if you have the time. And some people actually are slowly but surely reading all of them. I suggest going backwards and instead of from the very start.
Okay, and people can ask you questions and you will do your best as well to answer them. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Although I would ask that you go to the website first, and on the page where it lists all the newsletters, there's a Google search box and search for the phrase or person or whatever you're searching for to see if I've already asked about that particular subject, so so that I don't have to come back and say, you got to go to the website. I've covered that probably 2 or 3 times.
Perfect. Thank you. So let us start diving into the amazing work that you have been doing with the first book, The Gentle Way. So I want to ask you what your general take is on that, the wisdom nuggets about techniques that are easy to use for requesting your MBO.
Sure. Um, the reason I mentioned Robert Shapiro before was that he, in the Sedona Journal of Emergence, I don't know how this will come on camera or not. Yeah, not too bad. And so that's Sedona Journal. I've now been, uh, I'm a contributor and have over 200 columns on the Sedona Journal these days. So, so uh, Robert Shapiro was channeling uh, a a being. Uh, didn't know what it was uh, when I started reading this, but this being said that you can request benevolent outcomes. And I'd said, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." I I had tried the law of attraction. That didn't seem to work very well. But when I started experimenting with benevolent outcomes, they worked perfectly. I didn't understand how they worked. I just knew they worked perfectly. And so that's how I started. And as people tried it out themselves, they also said, "Gosh, this this is fantastic." I mean, I did not know what it was. I have since to learn that they are prayers. It's just they didn't sound like prayers. And it's probably good because I might have been, oh, what am I getting into here or something? And I would just simply say, I request a most benevolent outcome for my drive to the grocery store and to have a parking space close to the door, um, to find everything I need at the grocery store, an easy checkout line, and my drive home. Thank you. Just a simple thing like that. But it turns out that there's great power in the spoken voice, that when you say these things, whether they sound like prayers or not, they go directly to the universe and are answered as long as it's in within your soul contract, that soul path that you and your soul decided on for the most challenges, most successes that you could have in this life. And as long as it's on that path, you will get it. If you don't, then there's probably something better on the way for you, um, or it's just not on your soul path. And I've had a couple of biggies in that department along the years, but um, when I've asked my guardian angel Theo about it, he explained why.
Would you like to tell us what your top three most benevolent outcomes were?
Oh, well, one time I and my company were sued for $1 million. What had happened was that, excuse me, I was in touch with a lab out in Los Angeles, and they had confiscated a uh, over 200 films in Spanish, and so I made a deal that we would split the money, and so I contacted a Spanish network, which at that time happened to be located um, in between Fort Worth and Dallas. They're no longer in business, so I could talk about it pretty easily. And so I signed a contract with them that they would um, uh, they would have to check to make sure that these films were in the public domain so that anyone could broadcast them, and that uh, you know would uh, just make sure that everything was okay. Uh, Also, they would need to check to make sure the language was okay because these were going to go on Spanish language TV stations, and so that was the deal. The problem was, uh, a couple of months later, uh, I'm uh, I'm checking, and I said, well, how's it coming? And he said, oh, we're showing the films. I said, well, did you check on them? No, if they contact us, we'll just take it off the air. Well, instead of that happening, a group of producers from Mexico sued the station or the network, my company, and another film distributor down in Houston. And so over months and months of back and forth, we a uh, uh, finally had a meeting in Houston, and I had requested a benevolent outcome for a good attorney because I was being forced that. I had a friend of mine that was an attorney in Arkansas that answered under my name, and finally the other side said, if you don't get an attorney in Texas, we're going to go to the judge and force you to. So I requested benevolent outcome for that. I took my trash out to the alley, and I knew there was an attorney across the alley from me. He happened to come out at exactly the same time, and I said, any attorneys in Houston?" He said, "Oh, my nephew." So that's how I got my attorney in Houston. And so when we had this mediation, I he said, "Now, Tom, we're probably going to have to pay some money." And I said, well, okay, we'll see. I'm requesting a benevolent outcome. And so the result of it was that the station or network and the other distributor paid well over $500,000 in settlement, and we paid zero because I had that contract.
Wow.
So that was a biggie. If I had to pay 500,000 or so, we're a little company. That would have that would have killed us. So that's um, that was one of the biggest ones I can think of. Other times I've been protected from harm, um, where I was driving, and just as I got to remember this. It's been a ways. I I was uh, driving, and just as I came to the point um, uh, where uh, it was uh, the right place and the right time, there was a wreck, and we just barely escaped being involved in a really, really bad wreck. I got I put on the brakes and got within 6 feet of the wreck where the lady had turned around 180 degrees, and I would have hit her right on her side of the vehicle. So it was that this has happened a couple of times. Keeps you out of harm.
Awesome, isn't it? How spirit can protect
And
us.
yes, and a lady emailed me to say, "Hey Tom, I'm uh, living now on a farm in Kansas, and there was a hurricane, not a part, there was a tornado bearing down on my house, and so I grabbed the kids, ran for the basement, and requested a benevolent outcome, and the tornado lifted up and went right over the house, but didn't hit the house. So that's happened before, and so there's many times a lady emailed to say that her daughter was walking along a street in California, and this van with two guys started following her. And so she requested a benevolent outcome, and right then a group of people came out of a house, and the van sped away. And she said, I know that was fortunate. By the way, the sun is slowly coming over the transom, so you'll you'll have me in really some bright light. But I'll see if I can move over where there's a tree.
Have you with with a halo,
Oh, good.
symbolizing the light body. Let's talk a little bit about Atlantis and Lemuria. You have had lifetimes in Atlantis and Lemuria, and that is somehow also connected to the gentle ways, isn't it? So please
Yes.
enlighten us a little bit about the civilization of Atlantis, Lemuria, and the lessons we learned.
Okay. And I wrote about this extensively in my book, Atlantis and Lemuria, The Lost Continents Revealed. Um, so one day I was asking Theo, my guardian angel, who's actually a golden light being there, much more than just a little guy. And so I was asking him, have I ever had uh, a life during Atlantean times? And I was told, oh yes, you have over 160 or 80 lives at Atlantis. That's where you um, were told about. You were inspired to create the gentle way, and so um, that was the start of it. I was inspired to create the gentle way, and this was let's see, how far back? About 12,700 years ago. And at that time, I had about 1 million people that were requesting uh, the gentle way. And so at that time, I was told that war was coming and the Atlanteans were going to destroy themselves. So about 200 years before that happened, I and about 25,000 of my followers made our way through Europe to Egypt. And in Egypt, we resettled. There was an Egyptian princess that um, helped us resettle after in her meditations. She was told we were okay because everyone in Egypt had been conquered many, many years before by the Atlanteans. So they were concerned here, here comes 25,000 Atlanteans and they're going to take us over. And I was able to explain, no, we're just gentle people. We're wanting to resettle. And so that Egyptian princess is my wife in this lifetime. And this is what's called a setup life because in her next life, she's going to be an early version of a pharaoh about 12,500 or so years ago. And I'm going to be her assistant, but that's a past life for me. And, it's, for her, it's her next life. And after that, I know she's going to be the king of Ethiopia. Um, and I'm going to be Queen Menon again assisting him. So we have more times that we'll be together. And oh, and I forgot we're going to be in the future. Gosh, uh, that uh, for for space. We're going to be two female space pilots that are coming up. So hard to remember all these lives. Let me tell you. Now, which one was that one? Okay, you. That's the nice thing about this. You know, you can ask about those past lives and understand how they tie in. You know, with this life, because in my next life on Earth, it'll be in the 2400 era, and I'm going to be a female space pilot, and we're going to go out and explore at least a portion of the universe, and it's kind of nice to know. Uh, and you have to understand all your lives on Earth are going on at the same time, which is hard for us to understand. So really, I'm already out there in the cosmos, going to different planets with a spaceship that has around 350 people, and we learn we have learned by that time period to do what's called portal hopping, and that's how the ETs get to Earth. They portal hop, uh, and there are these energetic lines between suns and planets and moons and even galaxies, and you can't you can't just go all the way across the universe with one portal hop. You have to go from like one galaxy to the next one and to the next one, and eventually you can go across the whole galaxy, pardon me, the whole universe. And I will mention that the universe is much older than we think it is. Right now, they think it's 13.5 billion years old. The uh, the is it Reed telescope? What's the name of the guy um, that the huge telescope? Anyway, uh, they're already seeing little splotches uh, through through the lens of that telescope, and they will eventually admit that it's actually 20 billion years old. But even that, it's actually 25 billion years old. But that's as far as they'll be able to see with the equipment and all that they can they have available to them uh, uh, for uh, for looking at these various planets and suns.
Thank you for sharing that. That is also part of Conversations with Gaia. This is in volume 1, but I don't
Oh well,
remember it's Hobbes telescope something, but I, I also don't remember it right now.
I think it's like the James Reed or something like that, but I'm not sure. It's been a while since I had to look him up.
Thanks for sharing that. That's really awesome. So, which lessons did we learn in Atlantis that we are not going to do again now that this mass ascension is going on?
Yes, one of the things people have been really scared about um, is are is the fact that the ETs gave them free energy through the use of these crystals, and they had huge crystals that called posers, and they had to have a number of them because it was like a radio tower uh, broadcasting, and the curve of the earth will eventually cut off the broadcast. The same happened with these posers, that this energy they used it for their cars and buses and homes and offices and everything. But they had to be in not exactly the line of sight, but close enough to a poser that the energy would work, and even airplanes. But all of these, like the cars, never traveled more than about 60 miles per hour. What is that? 80 kilometers or so, and they just couldn't go any faster than that because there was just a limit to the energy available, and so that's um, people have been very, very scared of ever going back to these crystals again. Um, Even though we will never have a world conflict like the Atlanteans did, and then eventually the Lemurians who destroyed themselves too.
Thank you. Let's dive a little bit into the ascension and first contact in our times. What information have you gathered that could be interesting for us looking forward also into 2026 and so forth?
Now I may please explain that to me.
First contact has already happened in the past. First contact is usually when we meet our ET friends and we say hello and we share with them, this is how we do it, how do you do it, how do you see it, etc. pp, right? So this has already happened in the past, like there were civilizations before us who were highly connected to the stars and they got a lot of information shared, astrology, all of that, right? But nowadays, that is not the common or general accepted version.
Well, that's because of what's called the Earth Directive. Okay, um, the ETs were able. Now, I'm sorry, I'm trying to stay out of the light a little bit for you for a minute. um, the ETs were able to see thousands of years in the future, and they could see that the Atlanteans were going to misuse the crystal power. They invented laser weapons, okay? And the Lemurians were also given free energy, and they developed like hydrogen type bombs. And so when the ETs saw all of this happening, they completely withdrew. And the Earth directive was, let them sink or swim on their own. We will, they're going to destroy themselves. They're going to have to start over again. When there have been three major um, events where the oceans of the world rose. Okay, so the first one was the Atlantean continent sat on top of the mid-Atlantic ridge, and there was a line of huge volcanoes on that ridge, and they all exploded at the same time, erasing most of the continent, leaving only um, a few islands, including Poseidon and Poseidia and Aaron below it, and uh, the oceans rose. I think it was about 160 feet. So it really wiped out every single uh, town and village and city that were on the uh, on, were on the banks of the rivers or oceans. And then the second one that happened was that the was when the oceans rose 45 feet, and that's when the Atlanteans destroyed themselves, and the oceans rose 45 feet, and that was when uh, the Ark, uh, uh, Noah's Ark, uh, was used, and it finally landed on the bottom part of Mount Ariad instead of the top where they thought it did. But that was only 45 feet. It didn't really cover the whole world, just a portion of the Mediterranean where Noah was. Then the last major uh, rising of the oceans was when the Lemurians destroyed their continent, which was about 10% larger than the continent of Australia is today. And uh, they the oceans rose about 172 feet. So when these huge events happen, it wipes out all the cities and towns around the world with the raising of the oceans, and that's um, uh, that wipes out the whole history of the Earth at that time period.
In our days, have you been aware through your conversations with ET beings that they are coming back? We are going to establish contact again.
Yeah, I've been in touch with a person from my home planet. You have to understand, all of us are from other planets. All of us had achieved, our souls had achieved um, a high vibrational level on our planets, which allowed us to volunteer for what was called the Earth experiment. That that creator wanted to see if the four negative energies could be worked with, because our universe and the trillions of other universes were all created in the 10 positive energies. So we our souls volunteered. It was not we were forced to. It, one I just got in the last day or so. Someone's asking me if we're on a prison planet, and you know, are we uh, doomed to be on this prison planet uh, uh, working? And that's not that's not. We volunteered for these 600 to 800 lives on average for each soul fragment, and uh, to experience every single thing the earth has to offer.